What's crappin'? Welcome to Under The Foreskin, a show dedicated to the happenings of the SJU and Misfits Fantasy Football League. My name is Kyle. I'm the head of football operations for the Potomac Pretenders, the voice of SJU and Misfits Fantasy Football League, and co-commissioner with Alex Dunn, but nobody really cares about that. We got a pretty poor show lined up for you today. We're going to go through the Week 8 games, and we're going to go through the Week 9 picks. I was going to get on my high horse and rant about, how good of traders everyone is in this league and stop trying to fleece people, but because we're doing the show a day late today, some questionable trades went through today that I'm not happy with to see players, just folding up tent and, taking a hand job with a piece of sandpaper when they could be, bumping uglies with like Kate Upton or something. I mean, it's just brutal out there today. We'll get into that in a little bit. Let's go through the Week 8 games first. The Waco Wrinklebees took on the Chernobyl Tin Whiskers, and they won this game 75-56, extending their winning streak to 2 games now. New York Giants defense, highest scoring player on the board for the Waco Wrinklebees, who had mostly underachievers this week, but it was still enough to get by the Chernobyl Tin Whiskers. The Tin Whiskers did leave the winning player on the bench this week. Titus Young, with 23 points, would have vaulted him over the Waco Wrinklebees this week because Devon Bess in the flex scored 2 points. I'm not saying you should have started Titus Young over Devon Bess there, Mike, but, it's kind of eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and pick one. You just picked the wrong one, and now you're 2-6, and Joel flies up to 3-5, charging for the playoffs. Love it. Sausage Wallets traveled to Duluth to take on the Draft Dodgers. They won this game on the road, 110-94. Shady McCoy back on the TD wagon. He had 2 today, or 2 on Sunday, pardon me. And the real big difference in this game is that the Duluth Draft Dodgers have Matt Ryan and Roddy White, a deadly combination by anyone in the right mind. But the Sausage Wallets do have Julio Jones, the canceling factor if touchdowns are going to Julio instead of Roddy White. That is exactly what happened. And that difference, if Julio's touchdown goes to Roddy, you might have a little bit closer game on your hands. So the Sausage Wallets now in second place at 6-2, and the Duluth Draft Dodgers fall to 3-5. Going to have to get their feet back under them to make a charge for the playoffs. The Sioux City Smugglers, the now 8-0 Sioux City Smugglers traveled to Gnawbone to take on the Butte Pirates. Not only did they take on the Butte Pirates, they took the Butte Pirates candy, they stepped on their toes, they tied their shoelaces together, they gave them a frickin' wet willy, 122-53, a slaughtering. Doug Martin and Rob Gronkowski alone for the Smugglers could have beat the Butte Pirates this week. The only matchup that the Butte Pirates did win this week was Andre Brown versus Jamal Charles. Now, if you'll travel back in time with me for a moment, you'll remember that Zach traded Jamal Charles to the Sioux City Smugglers this year for Andre Brown. And ever since then, Jamal Charles has been wiping his butt with the Butte Pirates' face, and Andre Brown has sitting there dizzy on the bench. This week, though, Andre Brown, look out, fantasy owners, scored 6 points. And Jamal Charles only got 5 carries in Kansas City. Tough to believe that happening. So I guess you can hang your hat on that, Zach. Way to go. You got Roger there. Still 5-3, and that point scored is looking real poor. You better get your butt in gear, or you better make sure you win some games. Hollywood Hotties traveled to Poughkeepsie to take on the Pandas, and another win on the road for the Hotties in the closest game of the week, 98-84. Waiver wire running backs for the Hotties got him a solid 15 points. Rashard Jennings and Alex Green, 2 guys that Nick plucked off the waiver wire. 4 starters on bye for the Poughkeepsie Pandas, including A.J. Green, really hurt this week. 0 for the Hollywood Hotties. They do have DeMarco Murray out with a bad foot injury, but no players on bye other than that. I will say the play of the week did come in this game. Tyler did start Dexter McCluster, plucked him off the waiver wire on Saturday. He scored 12 points, which was a nice start for the Poughkeepsie Pandas because he was in dire need of a running back. This game did come down to Monday night. It wasn't as exciting as some of our other Monday night comebacks have been. The Poughkeepsie Pandas needed the San Francisco defense to put up 0 or 1 points against the lowly Arizona Cardinals. They put up 16 and pretty much just crushed the Cardinals. The Cardinals were lucky to get a field goal out in that game. Next up, Buffalo Armadillos traveled to Baton Rouge for the first home game in decades in Baton Rouge. They lost 79-59. And will they be packing up this week? If they lose another game, we will have to see. For Bakersfield, Baton Rouge, what would be next? 20 points out of T. Rich and Demarius Thomas for the Buffalo Armadillos. And you know, those were good scores for those two, but the rest of his team, the stars were aligned for the Baton Rouge Border Collies to get their first win in front of the home crowd. D. Wilson was on the starting lineup again for the Buffalo Armadillos. He put up 0 points. Eli Manning only put up 5 points. Eli Manning, 5 points. It's terrible. But unfortunately for the Baton Rouge Border Collies, the Minnesota defense put up a big -1, and they only got 1 point out of the Cleveland kicker. That combination of 0 points between those two players made up the 20-point difference. You figure on average 10 for a D, 10 for a kicker. That's a pretty decent week for both. This game is knotted at 79. It might be a different story. Next up, Crapstone Prairie Dogs took on the Tallahassee Trouser Snakes. 109-56, the Crapstone Prairie Dogs wiped the floor with the Trouser Snakes. 109 being the highest output of the year for the Crapstone Prairie Dogs, and you got to credit that to the three-headed monster in Marshawn Lynch, Adrian Peterson, and Matt Forte. They put up 49 points this week. Pretty damn impressive out of those three. TDs from all 7 players for the Crapstone Prairie Dogs, and for the Tallahassee Trouser Snakes, Vernon Davis, what is up? 3 points this week. That's a high from the last 3 weeks. Maybe should have sold high on him early in the season, Dave. I know it's tough dealing tight ends, but if anyone can do it, I know it's you. Last game of the week, Potomac Pretenders, my team, took on the Flint Tropics and finally got off the schneid in this 3-game losing streak I was on with a 105-78 win in Flint, Michigan. Miami's D and Willis McGahee put up 45 points combined. Ideal lineups for my team would have yielded 36 more points, which would put me to a total of 136, which I would have really, really liked. Matthew Stafford would have been 31 of those points. I started Sam Bradford. Silly me, start your studs. What was I thinking? Fortunately for me, it didn't bite me in the ass, as Calvin and Fitz continued to underperform with only 9 points between the two of them this week. Those are two consensus top 5 wide receivers going into the year, and have not performed that way. Waiver Wire Wednesday was pretty dull this week because Titus Young was already on a team, the Chernobyl Tin Whiskers, and there were no significant injuries at running back or anything, so not a lot of movement besides some kind of take a flyer bench guys kind of thing. And a 14-team league, that waiver wire is just decrepit and basically empty or with people with IR next to their name. The trading block, there were none this week, and I was going to rant about, you know, you're not going to fleece anyone in this league. Everyone's a pretty damn solid fantasy football player, and you got to take some gambles, you know, go with a gut feeling every once in a while. But I'm not going to be able to do that because some trades went through today, some very questionable trades. I see both sides in every trade. I think it's just wasn't the right play for a lot of teams, and we will start those trades. Wes Welker was dealt to the Hollywood Hotties for Rashard Jennings. So the Trouser Snakes obtained Rashard Jennings, and the Hollywood Hotties were shipped Wes Welker. So nice score for the Hotties there. Kind of scratching my head when I see this trade come through, but you know, whatever. It's Dave, and he said he's got more in the books, which we saw only moments later when Rashard Jennings and Brandon LaFell were dealt to the Duluth Draft Dodgers from the Trouser Snakes, obviously, for their star receiver in Roddy White. Desperate times in Duluth, needing a running back, but to give up that number 1 wide receiver when you got, you know, guys like Des Bryant. Maybe you could have got Rashard Jennings for Des Bryant. Maybe, I don't know what your guys' trade talks were, but man, Roddy White, that's a big shot. I know you need a back, but man, that's a big shot to lose a guy like that. And then quite possibly the most offensive trade I've ever seen was breaking news. This just happened. Between Jack Lincheski, owner of the Buffalo Armadillos, and Neil Dingman, owner of the Flint Tropics. Jack says, well, first I said, what the fuck are you thinking with that trade? And the trade I'm referring to is Jack sent Demarius Thomas, his number 1 wide receiver, to the Flint Tropics for none other than pass-catching running back Darren Sproles. I said, what the fuck are you thinking with that trade? Jack says, I need a running back. I'm good with Cecil, Shorts, and Santana Moss, and Antonio Brown. With 3 solid starting running backs, does Sproles have an injury or something? No, Jack, your brain has the injury. Darren Sproles is not a solid running back. He's a pass-catching running back who might snake a touchdown every couple games, but You gave up Demaryius Thomas, who's been lighting the world on fire, Peyton Manning's favorite toy. You said it yourself. Peyton Manning's favorite toy. He's the third best quarterback in the NFL right now. You just dished him. Man, Jack, what are you thinking? Killing me. Ugh. Anyways, on to the picks. Waco Wrinklebees take on the Poland Sausage Wallets. Vincent Jackson was off last week with only a 3-point game against the Vikes, 3 or 4. And I think it's time for another 30 burger out of VJax. That's just what he does, up and down, riding the bell. For the Sausage Wallets, if Shady McCoy and the Chicago defense against Carolina don't get it done, look out. The Waco Wrinklebeast will win this game. They will continue to charge for the playoffs. I'm taking the Wrinklebeast in my upset special of the week. From the upset special to the yawner of the week, the Chernobyl Tin Whiskers take on the Flint Tropics. Now in Flint, they have 4 good wide receivers, one who's on bye this week in Brandon Lloyd, who I will say is underperforming as well. And now to add Demaryius Thomas to the Fitz and Calvin Johnson mix, it'll be interesting if the air in Flint somehow affects Demaryius Thomas and all of a sudden he goes from a boom guy to a bust guy. It seems to be the pattern in Flint. Nevertheless, the only running back for the Chernobyl Tin Whiskers that they really got is the stud Sean Green. He's on bye this week. I guess I'm going Flint Tropics. I don't know. It's ugly in Flint versus Chernobyl. Duluth Draft Dodgers take on the Gnawbone Butte Pirates. Tough matchup for the Duluth Draft Dodgers this week, losing Roddy White as we just talked about. That 10-point combination is going to be a little harder to find without a Falcons wide receiver on the team. For the Gnawbone Butte Pirates, Alfred Morris versus Carolina, and a sneaky good play in Josh Gordon versus the terrible Baltimore pass D. I'm going Butte Pirates this week. Don't usually put any faith in Zach, but the Duluth Draft Dodgers just sailed their ships for me. I just don't like them winning a game the rest of the year. Sioux City Smugglers take on the Poughkeepsie Pandas, and for the Smugglers this week, wide receivers at Miami and Tennessee, terrible pass Ds. Running backs at Tennessee and Oakland, terrible run defenses. I guess you can ask what will Jamal Charles do, but the answer to that is it's not going to matter, even though it's projected for 3 points. The Poughkeepsie Pandas, I think, are going to fall hard. They're going to need career performances out of several players to get this done. The Hollywood Hotties take on the Buffalo Armadillos, and I had the Dillos circled in this one. But I'm moving to the Hotties after that horrendous trade that he just shipped Demaryius Thomas. Have fun with Darren Sproles. I bet he puts up 3 points this week. And the Hotties, Russell Wilson at home, unstoppable, and he's playing the Vikings. It's going to be a big week for him. And DeMarco Murray, might or might not play, hard to say, but he does have Alex Green on the pine just in case something happens with DeMarco. Baton Rouge Border Collies take on Tallahassee Trouser Snakes. RG3 versus Carolina, but Stephen Ridley and Frank Gore on bye is going to hurt this week in a must-win game for the Baton Rouge Border Collies. The Trouser Snakes are literally going to have to poop their pants for the Border Collies to win this week, I think, with newcomer Roddy White and Vic and Deshaun Jackson playing New Orleans. You got to like teams playing the Saints. I got to go Trouser Snakes. There's just not enough firepower there for the Border Collies unless RG3 puts up 50. My Potomac Pretenders take on the Crapstone Prairie Dogs when I'm going to call the shootout of the week. Tropical Storm Tamika is approaching Seattle, unfortunately, for Alex Dunn, and he should definitely be benching Adrian Peterson and Marshawn Lynch because both teams, I'm being told via Twitter, are just going to kick the ball off, take knees, punt, kick the ball off, take knees, punt, kick the ball off, take knees, punt, and it'll end in a 0-0 tie with 0 points for everyone. So just go ahead and bench those. Pick up maybe like a Shane Vereen or something off the waiver wire to give yourself a chance because I'm setting records this week. My team's going to go huge, and I'm going to walk away with the victories. I'm taking the Pretenders like I do every week to win this one. That's it for Week 8 games, Week 9 picks. Follow us on Twitter at SJU and Misfits and youtube.com/SJU and Misfits for all the latest stats, updates, scores, standings, all the excitement from SJU and Misfits. Until next week, good luck out there on the fantasy football field. Over and out.